What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another one of my tier ranking videos, the world famous tier ranking videos that you all come here for, not Rex Viper Cinemassacre. Anyway, a lot of people have asked me to do an Alice in Chains tier ranking of their albums from the S tier, the Satisfactory tier, to all the way down to the D tier. And I'm going to do that today. I would say Alice in Chains is one of my favorite bands in general, but definitely one of my favorite bands from like the 90s, like big four of the grunge bands, Nirvana, Soundgarden, Pearl Jam, and Alice in Chains. Alice in Chains is probably by far my favorite of those four. They had the most complex songs that are still interesting to kind of go back and listen to this day. I feel like a lot of those grunge bands, particularly like Nirvana, they wrote essentially like grunge punk songs in with a little Trojan horse of pop in the middle. So like I just can't listen to Smells Like Teen Spirit again. I'm just so burnt out on that song and a lot of the other songs that they played to death on the radio. But anyway, let's get down to it. I'm including in this list their EPs as well because I think they're really important to the story of Alice in Chains. And also it shows off their penchant and their skill for acoustic music, which they did an epic album of later on in their career, which we will talk about. But their first album, Facelift, I'm going to put that probably in the S tier. Yes, if we're talking Alice in Chains, that goes into the S tier. I mean, it was their debut album, and they came out of the gate swinging, telling the world, hey, we're here, like, you can't deny us. I mean, Man in the Box, easily their most well-known, well-liked song amongst the normies. It is a great song. How can you deny that chorus? It was like a song that when it came out, that was their Smells Like Teen Spirit. That was their Enter Sandman. It's their most popular song, maybe not their best song. You have We Die Young, Sea of Sorrow, one of my personal favorites, Bleed the Freak, great song. Love, Hate, Love, Lane Staley's vocal chops in that song. They're already setting the stage for that kind of ominous, slightly evil, creepy sound in their songs. Just that very dark, the darkness you can hear in songs like that. And then the latter few tracks, I didn't care for in that one. But anyway, moving on, they did the EP after that, Sap, I want to say, because Facelift came out in 1990, and then Sap came out in 92, right? So that's such a short, that's why it's an EP. It's so short, but it's got a lot of really interesting stuff going on there. I'm going to put that in the B tier. If we look at the songs off of Sap, we got Brother, which has famously Ann Wilson from the group Heart doing vocals on there, and it fit for some reason. They're native Seattlers themselves, the ladies in Heart, so they took a liking to Alice in Chains, and they wanted to do backup vocals on their songs. And Am I Inside is another song that Ann Wilson lent her vocals to, which, I mean, all that alone is cool. But then you got Chris Cornell and Mark Arm from Mudhoney, Chris Cornell from Soundgarden, doing vocals on the song Right Turn. Got Me Wrong, another classic Alice in Chains song. So even though it's so short, just with the interesting bits that's packed in there, it deserves to go on the B tier. Then, of course, we get to their legendary Dirt album that was released later that year, and that goes into the S tier, obviously. This album really saw the band build on what they had already established with Facelift by Lane Staley lyrically delving deep into the kind of the addiction part of his personality and the demons that he struggled with. And as someone who likes to hit the bottle quite frequently, I can relate to these lyrics more now than I ever did as a teenager. So, I mean, songs like Them Bones, Damn That River, Rain When I Die, Down in a Hole, which is probably one of my favorite Alice in Chains songs, Sick Man, then the radio beloved Rooster, which I am totally burnt out on that song, but that's just me. I love the lyrics behind it. Jerry Cantrell wrote about how his dad came back from Vietnam and they basically treated him like shit, like they did most veterans that came out, the hippies, throwing their patchouli and their mud and their spit at the veterans that came back from that war. Really sad time in American history. Junkhead, Dirt, Godsmack, all very much, Lane Staley coming at it from an addict, writing lyrics about his addiction. Godsmack, for better or for worse, is actually where the band Godsmack got their name from. So you have Alice in Chains to thank for that. How a band as lackluster as Godsmack could take even a title from a legendary band like this and use it as their band name, kind of insulting to me personally. We have Angry Chair, which was actually the guitar riff was written by Lane Staley, which I thought was interesting because you wouldn't think of him as a guitar player, but he wrote that guitar riff. And then they close the album out, which bands rarely do this. They close the album out with another one of their most beloved songs, which is the song Wood, which was written for Andy Wood, who was a beloved figure in the Seattle scene at the time, who he either OD'd or he unalived himself. I don't remember which it was, but it was written for Andy Wood, and it's a beloved Alice in Chains song, classic song. So, yeah, classic album, if you ask me. Next, we get to Jar of Flies. This is technically another EP, but I am putting this in the S tier. Again, more acoustic vibe. However, there are some songs on here that are very, actually, so fleshed out that there's an orchestra. So you got a nice mix of all kinds of musical elements here. They're not just resting on their grunge laurels. They are showing that we are our own band. You can throw whatever bullshit label on us you want, but we will prove you wrong. The opening track, Rotten Apple, with that bass guitar, and then Jerry Cantrell doing the voice box with the guitar where he's doing the talk box thing. It's totally cool. Great song. Very acoustic based. Nutshell is a beloved Alice in Chains song by many of the fans. So the vocal by Lane Staley is so personal, and you just feel like just every bit of emotion in that vocal. It's just a great acoustic song. Great lead guitar line by Jerry Cantrell that comes in there. Then we get I Stay Away, which is a very interesting song. Sounds very like a wide open field, and then it comes in, when you think the song couldn't get any more, ambitious, then the I Stay Away chorus part comes in with this orchestral flourish in there, and it's just beautiful. Who would have thought, whose idea was it to incorporate that? It's just such a great, rock song with this very ambitious idea, and you just don't see rock songs like that anymore. I'm sorry. Show me some links. Show me some links where, if it is a nice, ambitious rock song, that it's not got this modern day, overly compressed bullshit studio compression technique, because none of the Alice in Chains records did. They did it the old-fashioned way, baby. Their songs sound like they have breathing room. It's not this hyper-compressed, made-for-modern rock radio bullshit mixing method like everyone. Okay, all right, Josh, all right. You're getting a little heated here about the engineering techniques. Got it. Anyway. No Excuses is a great song. Wailing Wasp, which is a nice instrumental. Don't Follow is a sweet little song to kind of end it on. And then Swing on This is just another silly song that they do occasionally. They do the little kind of silly fuck around songs. The band went away for a while, for about 3 years approximately, and all the while poor Lane Staley is delving deeper into his heroin addiction, unfortunately. And then they come back with their self-titled, which is just called Alice in Chains. I'm going to put this in the A tier because I feel like it has some really great songs on it. The opening track, Grind, has that great driving beat, that hey, can you do that again? Yeah, sure, I'll do it again. Anyway, great guitar riff. It's a little long. I feel like they probably could have cut a minute off the song, and it probably would have fared a little better. on radio, because you never hear him play it anymore. But still a great song. You got Sludge Factory, which has just this super interesting, like, vocal harmony kind of, or vocal modulation done at the beginning and, like, middle of the song by Lane Staley. And they put some weird vocal effect on there, and it sounds like just classic, kind of dark Alice in Chains. Kind of Lane Staley wrote the lyrics about this song as like a big, like, fuck you to the record labels that are basically bleeding him dry and just wanting all of this stuff from them. And, you know, Lane was just really burnt out on dealing with them at that point, so that's what Sludge Factory's about. Heaven Beside You, classic Alice in Chains song, fantastic song. Head Creeps, great song, again. Shame in You, God Am, So Close, Nothing Song, Frogs. Yeah, again, another classic. It may not come up to the casual Alice in Chains fan listener as, like, you know, one of their essentials, but their self-titled final album, full-length album with Lane Staley, is not one to sneeze at, for sure. So then after that, another longer period of time goes on. Lane starts kind of withdrawing from the band and getting harder to get in touch with them, stuff like that. And MTV approaches the band about doing a Unplugged. Those were really popular in the 90s, especially with rock bands. You know, all the big bands seemed to do an Unplugged. Nirvana did one. Pearl Jam did one. Smashing Pumpkins did a variation of one, I believe. REM had done one, Eric Clapton, you fucking name it. The 90s were really big for these Unplugs, and people wanted to see them. Alice in Chains, already being an adept acoustic band with their EPs, they're like, shit, this is no problem for us. We've already done acoustic songs, and we're well-versed in that world. This is not anything that's going to throw us off. And it didn't. And so when they convened in 96 for MTV Unplugged Alice in Chains, that is an S-tier acoustic album, baby. It is definitely a lot of their greatest hits on here, which, you know, fan service. They did the opposite of Nirvana. They played all the songs that people most likely wanted to hear. Nirvana famously played very few hits on their MTV Unplugged. They did a lot of covers of these kind of old folk songs and just from all the songs that ran the gamut, but kind of with Nirvana, it still blew up because Kurt's way of singing and doing the song was so profound and put such a new spin on the song that they became beloved in their own right. The Man Who Sold the World, great example. But Alice in Chains just played their own repertoire of their own hit songs or their beloved songs, and man, the harmonization between Jerry Cantrell and Chris Staley is something of magic. You really got to watch the DVD and see these guys in person doing these songs, sounding exactly like they do on the record. Harmonies are just on point, despite the fact that Lane Staley is clearly not doing so well physically. He seems to close his eyes and seemingly nod off at times. He wouldn't sing certain parts where he was supposed to come in with his vocal, but then when he would come back, he'd just be right in there, just pitch perfect. He was wearing like these finger cut off gloves to hide the track marks, from what I've been told, and just kind of sad that was kind of their last send-off, the last time we really saw the whole band together intact with Lane Staley. They would record a few more songs after this for their box set, the Nothing Safe box set. And then famously or infamously, I did a video about Lane Staley's final song that wasn't with Alice in Chains. It was with the Class of 99, where they did the cover of Pink Floyd's Another Brick in the Wall Part 2, where Staley's voice just sounded completely beat to hell and was really sad. I put a card to that somewhere over here so you can give that video a listen or a watch or whatever you do with videos. But yeah, no, this is a classic DVD/album that you absolutely, even if you don't like Alice in Chains, you need to give it a watch. I think any true music fan has this Unplugged DVD on their bookshelf or their DVD shelf somewhere. So then, of course, sadly, Lane Staley withdraws from Alice in Chains. He's missing in action, and we really don't hear anything from him. He's pent up in his mansion in, I don't remember what city it was in. I don't know if it was Seattle, if it was in LA or whatever, but he just gets more and more into heroin, and he sadly passes away. And so no more Lane Staley. Rest in peace. You are a legend, a music god, a vocal god. And so now they're left without their front man. Well, Jerry Cantrell, as he gets so undercredited for, is like the second lead singer in the band. So you lose one lead singer, well, you still got another guy in there. They reform and regroup, and in 2008, they recruit singer and guitar player. He's actually more of a guitar player than he is a singer, but he becomes, the new frontman, Alice in Chains, William Duvall. And they put out Black Gives Way to Blue, and that's going in the A category. You changed your lead singer. The lead singer you already had was a guy whose voice will never be replicated. That's another video I made that you can check out. And yet, when they released the lead single from that album, Check My Brain, which A, has one of the coolest guitar riffs, this cool bendy, just very Alice in Chains, and the drums and bass kick in, and it's like super heavy. And then William Duvall kicks in, and it's like Jerry Cantrell's harmonizing with him. You feel like you're listening to a ghost. This sounds like an Alice in Chains song with Lane Staley, especially when the chorus kicks in. It's creepy. When I heard that song, I'm like, they're back. There's no reason why this band should fail. They found a guy that doesn't sound exactly like Lane Staley. In fact, I don't really think he sounds like Lane Staley as much, like at all. But when he and Jerry harmonize together, that's the Alice in Chains sound. It just somehow happens. It somehow comes out. And this is a great album. It really is. This is a great album. All Secrets Known, the opening track. Check My Brain, obviously. Last of My Kind. Your Decision, which was another single off the album, which shows that they can still kind of do the more laid-back acoustic things and still come out with a great song. There is a lot of really great stuff on here, so you should do yourself a favor, and if you're Team Lane Staley and nothing will ever replace him or whatever, get your head out, Jace, and listen to this album. Okay, up next we have The Devil Put Dinosaurs here. I'm going to put this in the C category, okay? I had kind of disregarded this album because I'd heard some singles off of it, and nothing about it really grabbed my attention all that much. So I just was like, there's so much other music vying for my attention right now, like I can't really put much focus on this. But I recently listened to the album, and I had some notes that I wrote down that I feel is more efficient if I just read them off than me trying to remember them. So as far as Devil Put Dinosaurs here, it's got a remarkably consistent grunge sound when you listen to it. Maybe a little too generic for Alice in Chains, though. It definitely sounds like an Alice in Chains record. There's definitely some killer guitar riffs, but the problem is that they never really go anywhere. They start out with a good riff, and then it just kind of drones on. The songs are pretty long. There's not a whole lot going on. This is a very vibey kind of record, I would say. The Devil Put Dinosaurs here track itself, that the album's named after, is probably the most interesting track on the entire record. Very ominous and evil sounding. Very standout Alice in Chains-esque track. But nowhere near one of my favorite records, but still worth a listen, especially if you can stomach the longer, vibier Alice bits. There was definitely songs like that on Dirt, but were just maybe a little bit more well-written than the songs on Dinosaurs. And then we get to their latest album, which I have a t-shirt of that I got from their concert when they played in St. Augustine, Florida, is Rainier Fog. I'm going to put, for an Alice in Chains record, I'm going to put it in the D category. because, again, notes here. Aside from the single The One You Know and one of the closing tracks, Never Fade, this album is pretty lackluster. This album was like The Devil Put Dinosaurs Here, but without the guitar riffs. Again, aside from The One You Know, which was the single, that's a great guitar riff, but if you only have 2 good songs in a 10 or 12 song record, that doesn't rescue the whole rest of the record. The songs drag and they aren't that interesting to me. It still sounds like an Alice in Chains record, but watered down to a certain degree. But with that being said, a watered down Alice in Chains record is still better than any modern rock record played on the radio today. They are also, for whatever reason on this album, seemingly relying very heavily on those famous Alice in Chains vocal harmonies, but they get kind of tired after a while on this record. So that is why, in my opinion, Rainier Fog, their most recent album, is in the D tier if you're comparing it against the standards that they've set by all their other legendary albums and EPs. So that's my take on my Alice in Chains tier list. Take a look at it. What do you think? Let me know in the comment section. What are your picks? What are your choices? What do you say? What do you hear? What band would you like me to do next? Until next time, have a good rest of your night.